This episode is sponsored by Turn Gymnastics Apparel, the brand dedicated solely to the sport of men's gymnastics. Choose Turn this season to outfit your team with industry-leading design concepts and elevated options for elite performance. Get the design process started today. Visit turn-gymnastics.com to discover the latest possibilities. Turn. Never done perfecting. Thank you, Turn, for supporting the Sam Oldham podcast. Supporting Turn helps us bring you new content every single week from the world of gymnastics. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Sam Oldham podcast. In this episode today, I'm joined by Edgar Boulet. He's a French national team member. In 2018, he was part of the French men's gymnastics team that took a bronze medal in the European Championships. He's probably best known for his exciting performances on the high bar. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time, and I'm really excited to get into a conversation today. Edgar, thank you for joining us. Just to start off with, mate, you've been retired now just for a few months. What's that experience been like in the last 3 months? Have you begun to maybe process your career a little bit, and how are you finding retirement?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to share my story with you. I've known you for a while, so yeah, thank you. And I really respect you and your career, so it's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you.
So to get back from to my career, I've been retired for a couple months now, and it's an interesting journey. I was not able to do a lot of things lately, but just trying to reflect on myself, on my career, on what I've achieved, and what I want to do in my next life. I think it was time for me to start to move on. We'll get into details later, but it was time for me to do something else. Like, my head couldn't go to the gym freely. I was thinking about other stuff than gymnastics. So it was it's interesting for me to be there in my apartment, in my home, and to just think about life and different things in life, businesses, take care of my dogs, building a family and stuff. So I really enjoy that, and it's really calm and peaceful, and I like it for now.
That's great, mate. Yeah, I'm always surprised because I consider you to be the same generation as Frank Baines, Niall, Courtney. And when I do these episodes and I do some of my research, I'm always shocked that you guys are only 2 years younger than me. For some reason, I see you as like little brothers. And I'm like, whoa, there's only 2 years difference. Like, these guys are close, yourself included, right? You're close to 30 now. But you had an amazing career, mate. What was it like, having recently retired, Edgar, and then having to watch an Olympic Games? Because it must be quite difficult. I'm sure you had plans, 4 years ago to maybe hopefully compete in Paris at a home Olympic Games. So to then have retired just before the Games and then for it to take place in France, what was that like? Were you able to watch it? Was it tough at times? Was it a bittersweet situation? How did you feel about that?
Well, it was difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it was really difficult to watch it, and because like you said, 4 years ago, my plans was to be in the Olympics in Paris. It's once in a lifetime dream to have Olympics. You've lived it. It's you had a chance to get a medal at the Olympics in your own country, in front of your own crowd. You know how much enjoyable that could be. And so my plan was to be there. Unfortunately, there was a lot of problems with the federation, and it's been going on for the past 8 years now.
Okay. So
too much problems, and for me, the plan was in motion until last January, where the trials for the World Cups to qualify for Olympics happened, where I did probably the best job ever. And it was a problem for the federation because they placed the trials in January.
Okay.
With having in mind that people won't reach the scores because they won't be ready.
Okay.
And they had in mind, they won't reach the score, so we can do whatever we want.
Right. Okay.
And so I got there. I trained for the whole holidays. I had no Christmas, no New Year's Eve. just train. I trained, got ready for the trial because I knew that was my last chance, and I wanted to be ready. It was my plan, and got there, absolutely killed it. I did probably the best routine ever. It was in 2 days, and then 2 weeks later, they came up with a team to go to the World Cups, and they called me and said, you reserve. Like, what? My reserve? Like, I'm probably the only one to have done my job right.
Yeah.
And I'm just reserved. Like, I don't understand. And they had their faces during this whole Olympic cycle, and these faces were the same for the World Cups.
Okay.
So for me, it was quite difficult because when I received that phone call, it's like my whole world collapsed. Because for me, I was certain after everything I did, I was certain that I was on the team. I was like, there's no way I'm not on that team because I did my job. And yeah, my whole world collapsed. So it took me probably a few weeks, probably a few months to process it and, just to reflect on it. Say, okay, well, it's probably something in life sometimes just doesn't mean to happen. And for me, it was, okay, it's probably, Olympics was probably not for me, even though I wanted to be there. I earned my spot. Circumstances made it like that. So fine. And then, I got injured. I I torn one of my ligaments on my shoulder.
Okay.
A month after that. And after that, it was just a bunch of injuries and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, my head is done. I can, I can't handle the pain anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. It's just not for me. So I decided to quit right before, just did my last French nationals and decided to quit. But I wasn't ready to quit until Olympic Games. And when I saw Olympic Games, it was really tough for me. I was like, shit, man, I could have been there.
Yeah.
Could have been there. I know I had my spot on high bar. I've watched every World Cups and I knew my place belonged there. And I was at home on my couch watching it.
Yeah.
So it was tough. It was like the second time when my world collapsed a little bit more. But in the same time after that, when I reflect on it, I was thinking, well, it's done now. So now I can move on.
Did you learn some lessons, some life lessons from that period, Edgar? I had a very similar experience that I've spoke about on the podcast before numerous times in 2016 and felt very similar to the way that you're describing how you felt in that moment, like your world collapsing. And, I was convinced the same thing. I've done my job. I got the scores. There's no way, I don't understand how you can't not put me on the team right now. We were talking before we went live that sport is about who's the fastest, the strongest, who's the best. And so you kind of believe if I do the work and I get the scores, then the right thing's going to happen. I'm going to be on the team, right? But, we know now, having had those experiences, and they're very valuable experiences because this is the same in all walks of life, that life isn't always fair, right? Were there things that you learned about yourself during that period and also about life that you carry with you now that you've retired?
Yeah, I think ultimately the gymnastics also, gymnastics is a great way to learn some lessons, especially about not giving up, because the basics of our sport is failure. In our sports, you fail more than you win, because when you try something, you try it, doesn't work, then you go again, doesn't work, you go again, doesn't work, until it works. But you have 80% failure and 20% win. So when you succeed something, you sometimes you just forget about, okay, how many times did I fail to get it done? And that thing, when you're having hard times with with like when you work on yourself, you understand that all those little failures that you had that you don't remember, now you remember it, and you're like, okay, well, I already did it. Yeah. I know how it feels to fail and to get back up. And that's probably, it's not something new that I learned, but it's just, I reminded myself something that is deeply inside of our sport. Yeah. It's deeply connected to the philosophy of a sport. And that philosophy is like all about failure and not giving up. Mm. You deal with failure every day. And 4 years ago when I decided to go to the Olympics, I had a really bad time as well. I was I've dealt with depression, alcoholism, and dark thoughts. I thought about suicide as well during that period, and through that period of time, I became a huge fan of Lewis Hamilton.
Okay.
That is the Formula 1 driver that is always talking about mental health and not giving up, always believing. And when I got out of this situation, I always told myself, giving up is easy. And what I want is a hard path. I want a path that is really, really hard. So when I have to deal with something in my life, no matter if it's my mom is gone, my dad is gone, my girlfriend, my baby, whatever, I need to be ready. And so I wanted to do the whole way. So my head was always about not giving up. Okay, I failed. It's not about how I failed. It's about how do I get back up?
Yeah.
How do I do things better? And those things probably helped me also to realize that after those trials, when I was down when my world collapsed, okay, it's done. It's hard. I digest it. I process it. I allow myself to feeling bad, but now I need to get back up.
Yeah.
Because the season is not over. I have a club, a team that needs me. I have people that count on me. I have to get back up.
Yeah.
And at the end of the season, we'll see what we're doing. And so those lessons, I think, are in everybody's mind, but sometimes you get to forget about them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing you have to remember. In our sport, we deal with failure every day. Yeah. So one more, nothing to be afraid of.
That's amazing. That's an amazing message, mate. And obviously that's something that I resonate with myself. I guess that you will have been going through that difficult time at a very similar period to when I was going through a very similar situation. 2019 was when I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I was in therapy for 3 months. The year later, we had that experience with COVID. I'm sure maybe you might elaborate on it later, but I struggled during that time because I had no structure in my life, and my issues got worse before they got better, which is something that I found seems to happen once you identify the problem and you try to get better, whether it is depression, alcoholism, gambling, whatever it might be, any kind of addiction. It's when you start to try to get better, it gets worse, and you realize the damage you were doing to yourself. So thank you for being so open and honest about that. You talk a little bit there, Edgar, about learning from a very young age to fall down and get back up again. And I do think we forget that. Just take us back to the start then, Edgar. What was your introduction into gymnastics? What were you like as a kid when you started gymnastics? And what was gymnastics for you at that early age? Because it gets very complicated on that journey, right? And it almost changes, it morphs through time. In the beginning, it's just something that you love, and then it becomes a career, and you get confused with maybe why you're doing it. But what was it like in its purest form when you first started gymnastics?
Well, first of all, my introduction to gymnastics was through punishment, because my mom punished me.
Okay.
Because I was overexcited about everything. I always wanted to move. I was jumping on beds. I was climbing and stuff. And my mom told me, okay, if you do it again, I put you inside a gymnastics gym. And I was like, oh no, that's for girls. I don't want to do that. And that image that you have when you're young, you're like, gymnastics is you associate gymnastics with ballet or dance, and you're like, no, I don't want to do that because it's for girls, and you have that cliche in your mind. But I did it again ultimately, and my mom said, okay, take your stuff, I'm taking you to the gym. So I went to the gym, and as soon as she put me inside of the gym, I had that whole space where I could just express myself. And even though there were some rules and it was hard to follow them at the beginning, but I could express myself. I could, spend all that energy that I have inside me, and sometimes, just contain it and express it on high bar, on floor, trampoline, or when some stuff like this. And ultimately, I had some good qualities, especially in hair awareness. Okay. I knew like anytime where I was in space, and so some coaches, said like, okay, come over, and I started to do some more gymnastics. I was afraid of some stuff, but it was always about, okay, you're afraid of doing new stuff, but you have to try it. So, you fail, you try. You fail, you try again, and stuff like this, and it became a circle. It became a circle of enjoying being afraid in some way, but not enjoying sometimes because it was really tough, to be afraid to do some P-bars. I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna do that. but at the end, I was just enjoyed being on gym because I could express myself and spend all that energy. And at the end, even though I was more serious about it because I wanted to make a career, I always enjoy being in a gym. Like I love being inside of a gym. Like I spend my whole days in a gym thinking about gymnastics, thinking about ways to improve, learning about different cultures, gymnastics with Chinese, Japanese, USA, Great Britain. And then getting to know all these things, I wanted to try everything through my career and try to push some boundaries. But I wanted to push gymnastics boundaries, but I especially wanted to push my own boundaries and try to, evolve and do some stuff that was never been done before and try combinations. And it was more like, okay, where are my limits?
Yeah.
Where can I push them? Can I go over them? Sometimes I would be able to go over them. Sometimes I wasn't able to go over them. But at the end, I think that's what excites me the most with gymnastics through my whole career, even though it gets more complicated and there were some tough times inside my gymnastics career. Of course, like everyone had their tough periods, but at the end, pushing the boundaries and flying over the high bar or in the air in the trampolines, I think it's really what excites me the most with gymnastics.
What's the system like in France, Edgar? As a junior gymnast, is it? Do you have a national team set up from a very young age? Do you make that national team? Do you have training camps where everybody comes together? I feel like you're almost part of two generations, right? You had the generation that maybe you grew up looking and watching around kind of Beijing time with maybe Benoit Caranobe, maybe Thomas Buhau, that generation, maybe Dmitry Karbanenko a little bit, right, just before that. Mm-hmm. And then the generation afterwards around 2012, which was more like Hamilton Sabot, those kind of gymnasts, Cyril Thomasson. What was the system like when you were growing up as a kid, and has that system changed now?
Well, the system is pretty simple in a way, because when you go to the gym as a kid, start training, and if you want to do more, if you want to do competitions and stuff, you go to the coach and you say, okay, I want to do competitions, or my kid want to do competitions, or I want my kids to do competitions. And so you start training a little more, You go from 2 hours to 6 hours a week, but you pay for the whole year. So no matter what you do, it depends on what you want to, how much hours you want to train.
Okay.
And then from 6 hours, you can have what we call sports study section, where you go to school, and then school release you like a couple hours earlier.
Okay.
So you can train more and more and more. And so you go from 6 hours to 12 hours or 15 hours. And then after that, you have what we call high level training center, where you get to train 25 hours a week. Okay. So it's twice a day training. You go to school, you go to the gym, you go back to school, you go back to gym. And that system, you can start doing it when you're like 12 or 13.
Right, okay.
And it depends on your commitment and what you want to do with gymnastics, of course, but you get to train a lot early if you want to. And the only negative aspect of that is that you get to move far from your home.
Okay.
Because the gym that is using you to train for 6 hours to 12 hours, sometimes the coaches are not trained to get you to the highest level.
Okay.
So it's really difficult because that's the mentality problem of like coaches put their own limits to how they can build a gymnast.
Right.
They don't want to get informed or get the knowledge to how can I make you from just a club gymnast to a national team member gymnast.
That's interesting.
So you go to different centers across France. I think we have three or four centers where you get to train twice a day, and you just get inside it, and then you get to do a national team test. So you get to national team as a junior, okay, or as a hopes. I think you have that also in England.
Yep.
And then senior, but you don't have a young kid.
Okay, right.
National team. Yeah.
Did you follow that system, Edgar? Were you one of the gymnasts that at 12 years old decided to move to a centre? And if you did, was that far away from your home?
Yeah, I did. At 13 years old, I decided to move. So I went to the opposite side of France. Okay. With my dad, and my mom moved to Paris because she had a job in the city I was. And yeah, I went there. It was difficult, but it was the only way that I could be part of the national team. There was no only way, unfortunately. And I think ultimately the system needs to change as well, because it's really difficult for kids to commit to their study and gymnastics at the same time when you're far away from your parents. Yeah, it's a lot to ask your kids, and you have a really small amount of kids that have that mental strength to do that at a very young age. And I think it's in some way it's a good thing, but for me, I think it's time to change. But I follow that path.
Okay. That seems very restrictive to me, you know. It seems like the way the system is built there, you're only ever going to have a small amount of athletes to choose from. And, you know, as somebody that did, in a way, follow that system, although that system doesn't exist in the UK. I left home when I was 14 and I went to live with another family, and I trained at a different gym club. There were some real positives, and my time of the actual gymnastics there was great because I loved it, and I was surrounded by positivity, lots of great teammates that looked after me. But the other side of that was the negatives of being away from my family, being away from my friends back home, and being very isolated. And then my development as a human being really suffered because of that. And then one day, right, if you move to the other side of France, you go down this elite path, you get to 18, maybe you have a serious injury or your career doesn't pan out and you move back, you then have to rebuild your life again, but you're still a very young person that maybe will struggle to, and that is probably a problem, right? So it's interesting to learn about that system, Edgar. How then does that translate to the French league system that you have? Because I think people find that quite interesting. In the UK, we have no idea. There's just not enough gymnasts to have a league. Are the league clubs those national centres? Are the league clubs also those club centres that you talked about? How does that whole system work, Edgar? And at what age do you start to get involved with competing in that league system you have in France?
Well, the system, as you said, is very closed in a way, but very open in another way, because the system is very closed for national team members. So to get to national team, or to get an opportunity to show yourself, you have to be part of those centers.
Okay.
But to be part of a club, of a team, and to be part of the league, the French league that we have, the top 12, you like everyone can be part of a team.
Right. Okay.
You just have to train with the team and say, oh, I want to do top 12, and you train. If your level is good enough, then fine, you can go. Okay. So every gymnast in France in the 12 best team can go to the competition and do the top 12. There's no problem with that. And that's a good thing, because that system was built for probably 40, 50 years. So you get to see the growing of the amount of gymnasts that can do gymnastics and that are part of a team. And sometimes you have clubs that have maybe 4 different teams in 4 different categories.
Wow. You
have the highest category, and then you have the lower category where other gymnasts can compete in, where you have a lower level and you compete in a lower category. But you have a lot of teams, and that's really exciting, because inside of those teams, there are a lot of good gymnasts.
Yeah.
And those good gymnasts sometimes can be watched by other clubs, and the top 12 club can be like, hey, this guy is really interesting. Like, let's make him an offer. And so you get to build your team like this. And a lot of teams from national centers are part of the club also, because you have a lot more competition at the same times. And top 12 is really interesting as well in the same time, because it's a pressure competition. You have a lot of pressure because you have to deliver. You don't know when you're going up. You don't know if you're going to respond to the gymnast or if you're going to open the duel.
Okay.
So you have to really place your mind in like, okay, I can go like anytime.
Yeah.
And that's really cool, because you have a lot of pressure. It's a really interesting way to warm up, to think about the competition. You're like, okay, I got to do that or that. And you think about differently than a normal competition.
Yeah.
And it's an easy competition because it's only on 3 events. But I think those kind of competitions also makes gymnastics more interesting, and it helps to make the sections, the boy sections, grow over time. And that, like you said, like there's not enough gymnasts in GB to do that. But maybe if you get to do something like this, where you allow foreigners to come and compete, for example, for 4 years, you allow teams to be like, okay, we're gonna get 4 foreigners, and we're gonna make competition, team competition and stuff. And over the 4 years, you will see a growing in male gymnastics. And after 4 years, you can be like, no, we need only 1 foreigner is allowed to join the team. And that's what happened in France. Wow. Right now, we have only 1 foreigner is allowed per team. So
that's very interesting, mate. How are those clubs and teams funding that league? Does it come from local community support, businesses, the gym clubs themselves? How does that work? Because I've always been interested in the finances of making that work. I think that's maybe a barrier in the UK because, you know, people think about, could we have a league? Like, we do have some big clubs that have enough gymnasts, but where would we get the money from? Like, how would that work?
Well, the federation, I think, is part of some, like, it's part of organizing the league. The finances, all the organization around the first competitions are through the clubs.
Okay.
Only the clubs deal with that, and the clubs are free to do whatever they want. If they want to have like 10 companies that invest in this event, then fine. You know, they're allowed to do that. But once you get to the finals, the final, you have a city that will organize it. For example, Paris say, okay, we're going to organize it in this arena, this little arena, but Paris has to pay for everything. Paris has to invite all the teams. Paris has to pay for dinner, pay for hotels, for every member of the 4 teams that are in the finals.
Yeah.
And the federation doesn't put any money. So you have to get the finances right, and you have to pay for the tickets.
Okay.
And that's something that is quite difficult, because if the federation doesn't pay for anything, you get to have bad events that has bad publicity.
Right.
Which make clubs angry because they don't want to spend any more money because it costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
But that's the fine line to get where the system can be improved.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same times, on the practical side, it's a great thing to have a league like this.
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. I've competed in the French league and the German league, and I recommend those leagues to almost all British gymnasts that are aspiring to compete at a high level. You know, obviously the finances are great, but more about the experience of competing under pressure, because like you said, it's a very different style of event. You don't know when you're going to compete. The warm-up's restricted. And I think sometimes in gymnastics, we spend so much time trying to be perfect that we want to compete at the perfect moment in the perfect condition, but that's just not realistic. And in the UK right now, there are not many competitions, and you have to learn the skill of competing, right? Like, competing is a skill. It's a mindset. You have to train it, and you can forget that skill very quickly. So if you only do 4 competitions a year, that isn't enough, because when you compete at a big competition like a World Championships, that pressure is going to get to you straight away. So it needs to be automatic. And I do think as a French gymnast, or as a German gymnast, or even in America in the college system, a big advantage you guys have is that you're able to compete way more than some of the other countries, and that gives you a huge advantage when it comes to competing under pressure. How does it work, Edgar, in terms of, like, if you're a French gymnast competing for a French club, do you get paid the similar kind of money to the foreign gymnasts that come over? And how do the I guess, homegrown athletes feel about the foreign gymnasts coming over? You know, is that a conversation that takes place? Is it different? Is it all kept very quiet so nobody knows who's getting paid what? How does that work?
No, in my team in Orleans, we're pretty open-minded about it. So we have no problem with having foreigners coming, and no matter everyone knows how much the foreigner will earn. There's no problem with that. Everybody in the club is okay with that, because in my club we have a committee that votes for everything. So if something is wrong, they vote no. We're not doing that. So everything is clear. It's very transparent.
Right.
And for us, like, we're so excited to have different gymnasts from all around the world. Like, there is so many things to learn about each other, and we get to have great relationships with some of the athletes. Yeah. We built a great relationship with James Hall, that has competed for us for 4 years, I think. He was always there, always solid, like the Iceman. But it was probably, for me, he was the greatest foreigners that we ever had.
Yeah.
And not only gymnast, the greatest guy, because he was like, this guy's so funny, so nice. He was really part of the team, and everybody missed him back in the club. We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
But we want to build also a relationship with the foreigners that are part of the team. We want to build a relationship with the guy that doesn't have the opportunity to have a team like this. To want him to have the opportunity to have that with us.
Yeah.
And to build that relationship. And no matter if he earns a lot more than us, that doesn't matter. But the finance system is really different from foreigners to French, because us French, we are supported annually. So we might not have prize money for those team competitions.
Okay.
That the foreigner will get. For example, the foreigner will get 1,000 euros for this competition. Us, we won't get anything. But the difference is that at the end of the year, the bills that we have to pay to train, or for grips, or for equipment, whatever, for competitions, we don't have to pay for anything because the club will support us.
Right.
And that's the major differences. And when you're lucky, when your level is high enough, you get to have a salary like I did. Right. So I had a contract with my team that said, you're a professional gymnast. So I get paid every month to train. And that's amazing, because like not many gymnasts has that opportunity, the chance to get paid every month, even though it's not much to live in Paris, but
that's
it's still something to get. Yeah,
it's a great system.
Yeah, the system is great. Yeah,
being somebody that has been at a club for a long time and cares about a club, I think it'll be really interesting to hear from you, Edgar, as being somebody that is from France, competes in the league. French gymnastics means a lot to you. What would you want to see from a foreign gymnast that would come over to your team and represent your team? What are the things that you're looking for? Because I think a lot of the time, most of the athletes that are foreigners, initially, they just see the money, right? That's their motivation initially. And they go over, they just want to make the money, go back home. But I've found that the relationships that work best, and I've learned this through my own mistakes of also being like, all right, I can get a little bit of money. I just go and do some routines. I'm in shape. Why not? I'll go over. I won't integrate with the team so much. I'll maybe just go over there, do my own thing, do my own warm-up, maybe not make an effort to learn a bit of a language or communicate with the guys, and then I'll go back home and it's fine. And I can do that for 5 weekends. I'll make a load of money. Amazing. I understand now that the best relationships that people have when they go over and they work with teams are where they really try to, right, I want to get to know all the gymnasts, like teach me about the culture, teach me about the system, how does this work, like what are the targets for our team this year? What are you looking for in a foreign gymnast that comes over to France? You know, in terms of the gymnastics, are you looking for someone that's reliable, consistent, dependable, and in terms of how they interact with everybody at the club?
Well, we look at the first we look at the level. We want one gymnast that has the highest level possible, because when you take a foreigner, you wanna take a gymnast that can wins above anyone else on the other teams.
Okay.
So that's probably the first thing. But for me, what I'm looking for my team is a consistent gymnast. Is someone that is really consistent over the 6 events, because we might need that gymnast for 6 events and not only for 3 or 2 or whatever. And then we build the relationship with the gymnast when he comes over, because at the end of the day, for us, the top 12 is really important, but we know how gymnastics works. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes you do a great job, sometimes you fail. It's okay. Like we don't care. What we care is being safe. You do the competition, you get out without injury. First thing. Then you're happy. You had a great time. Second thing. Those 2 things are the most important things. And the relationship comes with all those things glued together.
Okay.
When you glue those things together and you say like, okay, hey, no pressure, do your thing. You fail. Come on, we know how it is with gymnastics. Sometimes you can go to Olympics and fail. Well, yeah, sucks. But at the end of the day, it's gymnastics. We're safe. We're alive. We breathe. We drink. We eat. Period. That's like we are all good. And then the relationship comes together. So that's the thing that we want to do with the foreign gymnast. We want to have someone that is feeling home when he gets with the team, when he gets with everybody in the club, even though he doesn't compete with the coaches and stuff. But we want someone that feels home when he's with the group. And I think that's the relationships that we want to build, because we don't want to have someone that comes just once through a year and never come back. We want someone that is committed to the club and that he's going to compete for 4 years with us. We want to, and even though he will compete until the end of his career, we don't care. We just want someone that is committed with us, that is feeling home. We can share things with him. We can go to a restaurant. We can have a drink, laugh, go to karting maybe, or come over for maybe a week of training with us, so we can do a team building thing.
Sure.
That's what we want. Mostly above the level of gymnastics. That level of gymnastics is secondary.
It's great to hear that, mate, because I think we have a lot of gymnasts in the UK at the moment. I'm starting to hear the conversations all the time. People asking, Sam, do you know anybody? How do I get into these leagues? How do I do it? What do I do? So I think that's going to be very, very, very valuable, mate. Let's talk about your career a little bit. Let's go back to kind of 2017, Edgar, post-Rio. You kind of had a little period there, 2017, 2018, where you had a lot of success. You did really well. You qualified for the high bar final in the European Championships in 2017. You then went on to win that bronze medal with the French team at the European Championships. Talk to me a little bit about that time, how you felt in that time, because you probably look back now and go, oh God, I was in great shape. I had some great performances. I missed that feeling of youth and competing against some of the best guys in the world. Like, tell me a little bit about that time, and then obviously the European team bronze medal, which was a big deal, I think, because I can't imagine you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong. France have probably not won too many team medals in the last decade, right? So how important was that? How special was that experience?
It was those 2 years, 2016 as well. I can add it on, but those 3 years were really probably the best years of my life, because in 2015 I received a letter from the federation that said by the end of the year I will be fired from INSEP, from the national team center.
Okay.
And so I received this letter. My coach, let me rephrase that. My coach came to me and telling me okay, you will receive this letter. But he made me sit down and was like, okay, dude, listen up. You're going to receive this letter. You're going to be angry. You're going to be mad. You have a week where when you can be mad, when you can get angry during training and stuff. But let me tell you that at the end of 2016, you're not going to be fired. You're still going to be in INSEP, and we're going to make sure of that. So I had my week where I got angry, and then I was in warrior mode. I was like, okay, I'm going to go beast mode. I'm going to train my ass to secure my spot there. And my coach was really It was probably the best thing that happened to me, because at this time he resigned from national team because there was too many problems with the federation, and he decided to take me and to train me, and he showed me a path that was for me so good that it helped me to win my first senior national title on high bar, where in 2016 I was 3/10 from the score to be part of Olympics.
Wow.
And I learned afterwards that the judges did that on purpose, so I won't be on the team in 2016. But, I wasn't even in the conversation to join that team, so I wasn't even disappointed.
Yeah.
But right after that, I just had a target on my back, and I was enjoying it, having that target, because it pushed me to do what I wanted to do to be great. And I was in the best shape possible, mentally, physically. Like, I was able to do everything that I wanted. And 2017, then came the Europeans. Everybody told me that, it's your first senior Europeans. You're not going to do stuff. Don't have high expectations. I was like, I don't care. I have high expectations. And if I succeed, then fine. If I don't, then doesn't matter. I will have other opportunities later, but I want to have high expectations. And wanted to qualify for the final. Then I came to the final. And I was the first one to go on the final. So it was a really tough position because, you open the final. So it's really, really hard. But I was like, okay, let's do it. You were born for this now. You just have to do it. Just take a risk. You have nothing to lose. You repeated your routine over 1,000 times. So it doesn't matter what happened. Just enjoy the bonus. Went on the high bar, did my routine. I was like, oh my gosh, I did that. So I was really excited, and it gives me a boost of confidence about my gymnastics and the way that I was training. And I tried to get more and more and more to rise a little bit my level.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to Worlds where I wanted to be world champion. Okay. In 2017, I was like, okay, it's my time. I want to be world champion. So I built a routine that was able to be world champion. And I built my routine, and I was probably, until the competition, I was at 100% rate success on my routine. Like, over a month and a half, I made zero mistake. I knew my routine from A to Z, and I knew every details and what I wanted to improve. And it was just a matter of details that I was ready. But then personal life experience that made my mind a little bit, how can I say that? A little bit destroyed in some way. And I wasn't able to compute everything and to put my problems aside.
Okay.
And my confidence was stripped away, but I didn't realize it until I went on the bar during the competition where I fell twice.
Okay.
And it was for me like a massive shock, where I was like, how can I fail twice in a routine where I didn't make single mistakes over a month and a half?
Yeah.
And then you learn, and I started to build my confidence back up, started to get back up, and arrived 2018. And it was kind of the similar situation where you felt in 2016, where you're like, okay, I did the trials. I'm on the team, that's for sure. But yet you end up not on the team. And that was the first thing for Mediterranean Games. After the trials, I was like, okay, I'm on the team, that's for sure. Get the call. No, you're not on the team. You're second reserve. I was like, oh, shit. And which means that if I'm second reserve for Mediterranean Games, I'm also second reserve for Europeans, because the teams were the same.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, it's life. Better be ready in case of an injury. Comes Mediterranean Games, one injury. Boom, I became first reserve. Then preparation for Europeans, second injury. And I'm like, okay, boom, I'm on the team. Let's make it happen. We did the whole preparation, and the dialogue between the coaches and the gymnast evolved between we're going to do and try our best to, no, we won that medal because we know we can have that medal. And I think that was the first time for me that I heard the coaches speaking with this level of expectation. And when we got to the qualifications, we didn't do a really good job. But at the end of the competition, we took the paper and we're like, oh, wow, okay, that's really possible. And we had a back against the wall, but in the same times, we're like, okay, guys, we have nothing to lose. Like, that medal is ours. First and second, we knew that it was impossible because of Great Britain and Russia.
Yeah.
But third place, we knew it could be for us, but we had to deliver. So we made a big meeting and we're like, okay, let's put the cards on the table. That medal is for us. We have to do it, okay? As a team, not as individuals that are competing just for themselves. No, we have to do that for the team, as a team. And so we went to the second day of training. We were like so confident that this situation were favorable for us to get a medal. Then we got to the competition and it was just like, it was made for us. Like every single event was like, okay, great. We did the job. Second event, we did the job. Third event, okay, we did the job. And we came to pommel horse at the last event. And it was, you know how it is, like to finish on pommel horse. It's quite tough. And I was like, I didn't do pommel horse. And I was like, okay, fortunately, I don't do pommel horse because I don't know how I would be able to handle that much pressure. Because if we had three routines with no mistakes, that medal was for us. Yeah. That was 100% on paper. That was 100% certain. And first routine, no mistakes. I was like, oh my gosh, those guys are beasts. They are monsters, like the way they handle pressure. Yeah. And second routine, a hit. Third routine, a hit. And I was like, oh my God, like we did it. And we didn't really realize it. But as soon as the last gymnast went in and we saw the board and we're like, fuck, we are third. Like we are European bronze medalists as a team. And it was quite special because it was the first time, I think, in 12 years that we didn't have a team medal with every single European teams. Because in 2010, there was the problem with the cloud and the volcanoes and stuff. Yeah. So Russia, Ukraine went there. So it was, it was really, really probably the best feeling that I've ever had. And the best experience as a team because every team member came together and we had some issues with certain gymnasts, like, fights that you can have between individuals that we just settled those fights. Yeah. Like this, like a blink of an eye, because we placed our problems aside and we're like, okay, we have a problem. We don't care. Now that's the team. Yeah. The team needs us. We need each other. So we're going to work it with each other and we're going to do a great job. And on the human side, it was probably the great experience. And on the result side, it was also the best experiences, the best feeling to go up on a stage like this and to have that medal around my neck. It was, the best feeling ever.
What an amazing story, mate. I think there's some really important messages in there that I took away myself, like reliving that story with you. I think sometimes it's very important to have somebody that maybe believes in you before you believe in yourself, right? Like you need someone to tell you, like your coach, when he sat you down and he said, you're going to be on that team in 1 year's time, because everybody needs somebody to believe in them at some point, right? We can all pretend that we do this by ourselves, but it's not true. Everybody needs a support network. And I think then when you get the evidence, then your confidence comes. But before that, you need somebody to tell you, you can do this, I'm with you. And then when you get the results, like you did when you won that national championships, then you go, oh, right, yeah, the confidence I have and the dream I have, it's real now. Like, I can see it. And I think the second message is just as a team, you are never going to have individuals in sport, in an individual sport like gymnastics, that are best friends, right? I've had that experience myself with teams. But when the goal is greater than the individual, it's amazing how you're able to squash all of those distractions and work for a common goal. And I think, you know, listening to you talk about how the coaches, for the first time, you heard that language change to, no, these are our expectations and these are our standards. And everybody raises their standards. And, you know, for me, I've been in teams before where there hasn't been those conversations. There's no kind of clear path. I don't know what are we trying to achieve? What are we doing here? Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. But it always works best when there's a clear goal that everybody knows what they're working towards. So, yeah, amazing story there, mate. Talk a little bit then, Edgar, about the injury then you had to your ankle. I believe it was quite close after that. Is that right? You had an ankle injury after those Europeans? Maybe I'm wrong. I've kind of, you know, had a look through Wikipedia when I did my research for this episode. I think you had an ankle ligament injury around that time?
Yeah, ankle ligaments and knee ligaments also with my patella.
Okay.
And yeah, I had it was just probably overtraining, competing, because we had too much competition. I think I had maybe 15 or 20 competitions that year until Europeans. And it wasn't over because we had also Worlds and then Bundesliga, French League. So until December, there was a lot of competitions. Wow. And so, yeah, I torn one of my ligaments in my ankle, and I had a patella problem that became like a daily problem. But I couldn't stop because I had to get ready for World, so I had to train and to manage the way that I'm preparing myself physically to do the routines. I couldn't do floor and vault a lot because then my ankle and my patella were hurting. So it was really difficult to manage that period of time. But in the same time, you also get to learn a few things about the system that is sometimes really, really good. Sometimes it's really messed up because there are not times where you are able to rest your body and your mind, and you have to just keep on going. And that's really tough physically and mentally, because the physical part takes on the mental side as well, because having like big pain, like on a daily basis, is really, really tough. And like to manage it, it's really, really hard. So
talk to me a little bit then how, you know, you spoke in the beginning about going through that difficult period, Edgar. I'm sure that maybe coincides with some of these injuries as well, and maybe that was, you know, an element of what led to you struggling with depression. You talked about alcoholism. Just tell me a little bit about that period, and you don't have to go into too much depth, but just tell me, like, when you look back now, because you are now, 4 years on maybe from that period? I think you said it was about 4 years ago. What are your feelings about that time in your life now? And what was it like? And just try and describe that for somebody. I think for me, when I was growing up, I didn't really believe in depression and anxiety. I kind of thought those people were a bit weak, right? You know, I grew up in a very strict, very Soviet gymnastics system with, you know, quite strict role models. It was be tough, keep going, don't give up, like, don't be lazy. If something goes wrong, just do more. Don't show your emotions, you know, you've got to be like stoic. And, you know, I'm not that type of person. I'm a really emotional guy. So I was just being a complete false version of who I am, you know? I wasn't expressing myself like you talked about when you first went to the gym. I was like that. I'd go to the gym and it was like wide eyes, wonder, like running around everywhere, talking, laughing. I wasn't that person, you know? I was the complete opposite of that. So just tell me a little bit about that period of time, Edgar, those struggles that you faced, and maybe how the physical side of being in pain and not being able to train then links to the mental side and how you feel about it 4 years on.
Well, I think it started with a lot of small things, because I had issues, or maybe like the head coach. I think it was more like the head coach at the time had issues with me and with my personality.
Okay.
And when I started gymnastics, he was still a gymnast, and he didn't like my personality either at that time. But I'm who I am, and I always position myself to, no matter what I do, I would never change my personality. I would always be true to myself. And so few times I had, just little remarks from him, like, don't do that. You're embarrassing yourself. Don't scream. Or don't be happy. Don't show your emotion. Like, why doing this? Are you cocky? You just always little things like this when you're going through training camps or competitions. Like, he was always telling something on me that would try to break my confidence.
Okay.
And sometimes it would, because I would do great stuff on high bar, for example. I would do great releases, and it'd be like, oh yeah, that's great, but you didn't do that. Yeah, dude, but that I can do. But this, I was able to do it like perfectly. To just, just remark it. Like, I'm trying my best there. Like, everyone is trying their best, but I have my strength and I have my weaknesses. And for me, it's kind of a stupid idea to focus yourself on your weaknesses, because then your strength becomes average.
Mm.
And your weakness will be average, but your strength will be average as well. You have to work on your weaknesses a little bit, that's for sure, but you especially have to work on your strength to make your strength even stronger. And that was my view. I tried to explain to him, but it wasn't on this side. And I remember the two times where we were in Bercy. I competing on the high bar, and especially the second time where I did my job, I was like 0.05 from the bronze medal. And, as a French, when you get to compete, even like as a gymnast, not even as French, as a gymnast, when you compete in Bercy, when you see all those people that comes and support gymnastics, of course they support French gymnasts a little more, but they support gymnastics because they cheer for everyone. You get that support. You get that feeling like when you get into the gym, everybody screams your name, screams like, come on, let's do it. And so you get that feeling. It's just once in a lifetime. So you want to enjoy it and you want to play with it. So when you do your job, then you want to play with the public. You want to play with them because they paid a serious amount of money to come and watch it. And I've talked to some people that paid tickets. They were like, we're not going to vacations because my kids wanted to come and watch the competitions. So we're not having any vacations because we don't have the money to do it. And I was like, well, we have, as a gymnast, we have a responsibility to like make people like to make a show for them.
Yeah.
We have that responsibility to play with them and to just to give them a show that is respectable for the amount of money that they pay for. And so I was always, doing that, well, what everybody called that showman thing, where I was just playing with the public and getting everybody fired up. And this head coach didn't like that at all.
Okay. And
in 2018, when after Bercy, I was the only French gymnast that didn't get a medal, and I was really bit down about that because it's tough when you see everyone with their medal and you just have that fourth place. Yeah. But it was just fine, like no problem. And that head coach in front of everybody said those words: "You embarrassed me in front of everybody."
Wow.
And it was like, and that's why you didn't get that medal. You are an embarrassment. And I was so shocked that he said something like this to me. I took my stuff and I left. And I was in tears and I left. I was like, I wanted to say, fuck you. But I wasn't able to say because, you know, he's the head coach and all this politics. But those words were so hard that I think when you multiply these words by all the words that he kept on saying every time, I think it was the beginning of me being a little bit depressed. But then when we came to 2019, the French, like the French team didn't qualify for Olympics for the first time. And I think that was the major thing that made me go into depression, because I was like, okay, what am I going to do now?
Right. Okay.
What I'm going to do? And I felt so alone. I felt so like with no objectives in my life. I was like, I want to train for Olympics, but like next Olympics in 4 years, like, Jesus, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what's the plan? When are the next competitions? Then everything went so fuzzy that I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. And you get to feel a little more sad, a little more alone. But in the same times, when you feel more alone, you don't want to be with people.
Yeah.
So you put yourself in a position when you put yourself a little more and more and more and more alone. And you fight with yourself. You're having these dark thoughts. You don't want to open up because you feel that everybody's bad. Everybody suck. No one has the answers that you're looking for. No one will listen to you. And so you keep having those conversations where you want to fight the whole world, and when you feel like no one will understand what you're feeling, no one will understand your point of views about the situation and about how things are supposed to go. And the more and more you feel that way, the more and more it feels comfortable to feel that way. And it's just some kind of a paradox to be in this kind of situation, because like you said, we are raised as gymnasts to not show your emotions, but at the end of the day, we're not robots. We have emotions, and we have to express those emotions. And being depressed is not for weak people. It is for strong people that have been strong for too long and that didn't have this, this time or this space where you can feel a little weaker and you'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm sad. Yeah, I want to cry, or I want to scream, or I want to fight. And I think it's really difficult to fight these bad emotions. But it's harder to fight those emotions when you don't have that space to express them and to be like, yeah, that's how I feel. Yeah, I feel weak. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna be stronger. But right now, I feel weak, and it's okay, and it's good. It's feeling good to feel bad and to feel sad, and things get better. And the sentence that I said, this quote that I say all the time, is that it won't be no light if there were no shadows. If you want to have light, you need to have shadows. If you want to have a day, you need to have a night. So you always need to have a place where you can feel really, really bad and really, really sad, when you can express it and you can be proud of it. Like, yeah, I'm proud to be sad right now because I want to feel sad because this situation makes me sad, but it's okay. Then you get the chance to feel happier and to feel better and to be stronger and yeah, to move on with life, and things just getting better and better every day. So after this 2019 World Championships, there was COVID, all this period, and after that, I accepted my position as a depressed person, as an addict, and I went to therapy. And as soon as I accepted this, everything was way better for me.
That was an amazing story, mate. I resonated with so much of that, and I've never heard anyone say depression is not for weak people, it's for strong people that have been strong for too long. And I often say to people, like, I used to be able to take so much, like I could take anything, throw it at me, I can take it. And then just one day, it was just a little bit too much and everything broke, and then the smallest things would completely floor me, you know? I resonated with that so much. And I like, one of my favorite quotes is that, don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one, because it's never going to be easy. Like, there is always going to be difficult times. It's how you manage that, right? And I think I now have some coping mechanisms to try and manage that. Just tell me a bit about today, Edgar. Do you still struggle at times with depression and anxiety? Is it something that you have learned to manage well? And what is your relationship to alcohol? Do you not drink entirely? Do you only drink at certain times? I think that would be helpful, because you don't often hear a lot of young people talk about that. And I have a friend, a very close friend, who has been in rehab for alcoholism. So it's a topic that I'm very interested in. I was diagnosed with ADHD last year, an obsessive compulsive personality disorder. A predisposition of that means that I am somebody that might typically be someone that struggles with alcohol abuse, right? So I have some kind of experience with that. Just talk a little bit on that for me, mate. That would be helpful.
I mean, when you're doing high level gymnastics the way we did, we are extreme people. When we do something, we do it at 110%. We are extreme. But the dangerous thing is that we are extreme people in everything that we do.
Okay.
And if we get to be happy, we're going to be extremely happy. If we get to be sad, we're going to be extremely sad. And so that's the dangerous part. And with what I talked about just before, about having that space where you can be an average level of sadness and an average level of happiness, because it helps you to modulate everything and to level everything and be like, okay, this is the time where I get to be extremely happy, because I don't want to feel extremely sad to reach the bottom and to be depressed again. So when you get this therapy going, when you get this experience and this level of open-mindedness, you just understand things differently, and you allow yourself to talk in a different way with yourself. So you just allow yourself to have some space where you can have those little moments to not reach that level of deep bottom.
Yeah.
But you can reach that deep high. And I think that's something that is really important, because everyone will struggle during life. Everyone will struggle to have a perfect life, because life isn't perfect. Nothing is perfect. Nothing will be easy. There will always be difficult things. If you want to buy a house, you have to call the banks, but maybe 9 banks will say no, but the 10th will say yes. So it will be difficult for you and your family to go through that process. And you have to be able to endure all this hardness. And I think the therapy and the feedback that you can have on being depressed before helps you to cope with everything that you're feeling right now. Every tough moment that you feel helps you to cope, and it allows you to be gentle with yourself and say, okay, yeah, I feel some anxiety right now. Yes, I feel bad right now. I feel a little bit depressed, but it's okay. It's okay. Like, so, and you help yourself to recover from those moments, and to be like, to place your attention to not to anxiety and to fight against anxiety and be like, oh yeah, I feel anxiety, or I feel depressed, or and I don't need to feel depressed, and I need to do that and that and that. No, you fight it with a lot more calm, and you be like, okay, yeah, I feel depressed, I feel anxiety. What can I do to feel better? What are the things that makes me feel better? Do I need to spend some time with my family? Do I need to go to the cinema? Do I need to uh, play some video games? Whatever. You have to find your thing that will make you disconnect from everything and reconnect after that to life and to priorities in life. So the first thing that it's about this, like you always feel anxiety and depression in some ways, but it's just the level of how can you what level can you reach, and how can you cope with it, and how can you fight with it in a calmer way, because it's easier to fight with calm, but it's harder to get to fight with calm. Because you come from a place that is so difficult, so angry and dark, that everything needs to be fast and strong and yeah, and mad, and everything is about fighting with fists in some ways. Fist and fire, and it's hard to get to the calmer place, but once you get to the calmer place, then everything gets easier. And for for me in that period of time, it's really difficult because I have nothing to do with my life in some ways, because I don't have a job or whatever, but it's part of life. I need to try, and I go to job interviews. I try to reflect on some things that I like. I do a real estate lessons every day because I'm really passionate about real estate. So I try to find some things to keep my mind busy, and I open myself to a lot of different things to see, like, okay, that's what I want to do. That's what I don't want to do. And try to write on the paper, like, things that I don't want to do, to go and see what I want to do. And sometimes it gets really difficult because you don't have answers right now, but you just have to keep believing in life, and remembering, like I said earlier, that failure is part of your life and you will fail all the time. So it's just like a daily training where you get to fail on something. You want to learn something? Yeah, you didn't learn it today. Doesn't matter.
You just keep
moving. Tomorrow.
Just keep moving forward. Don't stop.
Yeah, exactly. You keep moving forward. You don't stop. You just wake up every day feeling grateful about having another opportunity in life. And that's my mojo of the moment. Like, I feel grateful for everything, every single thing that I've lived, because I am the man that I am today because of everything that I've experienced. And being grateful is really, really strong as well, because it helps you cope with everything, and to go back to addiction and alcoholism. For me, I still drink on some occasions, because the process that I had was that I understood why I was drinking. And I wasn't drinking because it was automatic for me, and it was just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to have a drink because it's the way it is. 11:30, I'm going to drink my first drink. No, it was like I would drink because I wanted to erase all the dark thoughts that I had. And I wanted my mind to be quiet. And with the therapy, the process was to identify those things and to understand that, okay, because as soon as I was getting better, I didn't want to drink anymore. I didn't want to get drunk at night to be able to sleep. No, I didn't want that anymore. And one day, without even thinking about alcoholism and stuff, I had a beer or a glass of wine. I don't remember. I had a glass of wine, and the people that was with me say, "Okay, do you want another one?" I said, "Oh no, I'm good, thanks."
Yeah.
And I reflected on that when I came back home, and I was like, "Dude, you had a glass of wine. You didn't have the conscious to be like, okay, it's wine, it's alcohol."
Yeah.
But the most important thing, like you said one, and like that's it, because that was good for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I wrote on paper, I was like, why did I drink and stuff? And I kept on thinking about this situation and the fact that I didn't have conscious that I was drinking one and that I didn't want more. And it helped me understand the reason why I was drinking. And then I talked about it on therapy, and everything went on. And I was like, yeah, I was an addict and an alcoholic for some time, but why was I?
Yeah.
And that reason resonated in my mind, and I was like, okay, now every time that I feel bad, I don't want to drink.
Yeah.
I have a drink because sometimes I enjoy having a good beer. We are the wine country, so I enjoy having a good glass of wine with some cheese or pasta, and it's part of our culture. But I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it not to have a lot of it.
And you got to the root of the problem, right? The drinking wasn't the problem. The drinking was your solution to the problem, and you figured that out. And I guess you did a period of self-reflection and basically tried to learn how you work. How does my mind work? How do I operate? Like, I went through a very similar process, mate. So it's amazing to hear that. I have to say as well, like, that coach that had that conversation with you in Bercy, I was in that final with you in Bercy. I can promise you that none of the other gymnasts in that final will have thought that you were embarrassing at all. I mean, competing in that arena was one of the highlights of my career, because how many times you get to compete in front of tens of thousands of people, you never get to do that. So for me, that is a memory and an experience, and it was in the middle of a very, very difficult time for me. So thank you for sharing that. You're very open and honest, but I would never think that. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of about my own career was that I quite often, a guy came up to me actually after I'd retired, and he said, "Sam, whenever I watched you in gymnastics, it was either amazing or it was like terrible. But it was always a performance I enjoyed. It was entertainment. Like it was great. Like I loved it. It was exciting." And I think your job as an athlete and a performer, right? Because that's what we do. We're performing for people, is to make people feel something. And you certainly did that for me as a gymnastics fan and someone that competed alongside you. And I know you did for lots and lots of fans. And I think that coach's remarks were, I'm 100% sure that was a reflection of himself, not of you. So, you should be super proud of what you achieved in your career, mate. Just to finish off, Edgar, just tell me a little bit about, just to finish, your hopes for the future and also your hopes for French gymnastics. And what your hopes are for the future of French gymnastics. Obviously, no team in Paris, no team in Tokyo. What are your hopes for the future for yourself and then just for French gymnastics?
Well, first of all, thank you for your words, because I've watched all videos of you from the youngest age, and it was for me such an honor to be able to compete with you and to compete in Bercy. So thank you for your words, and it's just really emotional about this, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, man.
My hopes for national teams, I mean, French gymnastics has reached a deep level of bad people surrounding gymnastics. We have great athletes. We certainly have great coaches, but we have the worst structure and the worst mentality, I think, ever. Because for the last 2 years, I think we the national team surround themselves with the wrong people, the wrong coaches, the wrong head coaches.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be a tough challenge to build back the French national team, because today the level of gymnastics is way too low to expect something on team side.
Yep.
When you see how much gymnastics has evolved as a sport, and the level of performance that you need to have to be in the top 12 teams in the world, the level is really something way different than back then.
Yeah.
So I mean, my hopes are for the team. My hopes are I hope for them the best.
Yeah, for the gymnasts, but the structure needs to change, and the people involved needs to change at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, everything needs to change. The mentality has to change. We have to sit down and put the cards on the table and be like, okay, that's our level.
Yeah.
We placed 19th in the world rankings in the last World Championships.
That's crazy. Wow. Crazy, really.
That's the most disappointing result, and the worst result ever for a French team.
Yeah, wow.
But it is what it is. Sometimes you have to reach the bottom to get back up. But you have to be honest with it, to be accountable about who's responsible for the preparation, who's responsible for the performance, and to make a plan of what do we need to do to build back the level of French national gymnastics. And that's going to be a tough challenge, especially for Los Angeles. For me, it's going to be really difficult for them to qualify, but I hope they qualify. I hope they will have great results.
Yeah, for the athletes, you want that. I think, I think that is maybe a very similar story in lots of countries, Edgar. I don't think it's unique to France. And I think you need some very brave people to stand up and say, hey, these standards, these values are not reflective of what I grew up with, what I believe in. And I think that is probably what you need. In France, you talk about those bad actors that are involved and maybe pulling strings. And I think you need some brave, maybe younger coaches, gymnasts to be able to stand up and say, hey, no, I don't want this. Maybe I will sacrifice my own career for a short period of time, but it will be the best in the long run for me and for the rest of French gymnastics. And then just to finish then, mate, what are your hopes just moving forward? What are your plans for the rest of the year?
Well, for me, first of all, to find a job. That's the first thing, because my plan is to be part of the real estate business. Okay. I'm really interested about real estate, so that's the thing that I want to do, and I want to get involved in different businesses. But for now, I need to get a job, and I need to settle down for a moment to have some structure in my life before doing everything like this. Yeah. And we'll see what life is about in a couple of years' time. But for now, just a little bit of structure, a job. Keep getting knowledge about the real estate business, and if I can invest in a few months' time, then it would be the best thing for me. But I'll still have a look on gymnastics. I'll still probably be involved in gymnastics with my club only.
Okay. Yeah.
But no national team gymnastics for me anymore. It's just it's a goodbye for me for the next few years, I think. Maybe I'll come back as a coach, as a manager. Maybe it could be interesting for me, but for now, just settlements, a job, real estate, and let's get some cash in my bank account.
Well, thank you, mate. I think anybody in real estate would be very lucky to have you as an employee, and I promise you won't find it hard to find work. And once you find work, you will find that all the life experience you had in your gymnastics career they're completely translatable to the rest of life, and you will have a huge advantage over a lot of people. Just purely the fact that you're going to be able to work really, really hard and think outside of the box. But thank you, mate, for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. Take care. Enjoy this early retirement phase. It's a long process, so just take your time with it. But it's also very exciting, you know. There's lots of new chapters, new things, new adventures. And gymnastics was part of your life, a big part of your life, but you're going to have, hopefully, many years to come. So take everything that you learned, look back at your career and be very, very proud of yourself. And yeah, all the best, mate. And thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. And last message for everyone. Just remember, it's not about how you fall. It's about how you get back up. So keep believing in yourself and keep believing in your dream, and allow yourself to feel weak sometimes, and you will feel a lot better afterwards. So yeah,
amazing, mate.
Keep pushing, guys. Thank you
thank
you so much, and all the best to all of you.
Thank you,
and
mate.
all the best for your son.